Is that really you, the one and only Wes
The one and
Wyatt?
only, the one and
Wow.
only. I'm a little froggy, but I am here.
I know. Could you do a little Barry White for us real quick?
Hey,
Okay, that's
yeah,
enough already. That's enough already.
can't get enough of Yola, baby.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's really enough now. But I
I
thought
sing
you
about as good as you dance.
true. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about with our guest today, here in a minute, about dancing because that's one of the things that he and I have in common. I think he way better than I, but still, that's something we're gonna chat about. But hey, it's great to be back and doing a couple of mini rocket stacks this week. This week, isn't it?
It is because on the beginning of last week, I asked you who we were going to have on the show on Friday, and you said, you know what? We don't have anyone on the show on Friday, so I did a little impromptu State of the Union and announced our website and the fact that we are still going to do the books that we promised, or I should say, I promised. And yeah, so these mini rack and stacks are great because we've kind of figured out that if we go over two or three, we get a little cuckoo in the cocoa puffs there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And we start that way, so it's not a
that's
lot of room
right.
for error. But no, it was funny when you sent that to me, and that was my fault because I had to cancel a couple that we did the week before, and didn't realize that we didn't have any in the can because I got so used to having several in the can. It was like, okay, just and note to self, but that's okay. Nothing like having a little State of the Union from Wes Wide himself, and I think we're going to get four in this week, or maybe it's five, 4 or 5 this week between today and later. So we'll be back on target, buddy.
That's all good. And this is your busy time of the year, shaking hands, kissing babies, and all that
Oh,
kind of stuff. So I know
it
you've
is.
been busier than a one-arm paper hanger. So
I have been.
yeah,
I have been. So speaking of busy, our friend today, our guest and our friend Rich Yoder, with Yellowstone Post Frame out of the beautiful mountains of the western U.S. is sitting patiently. He was at the beach this morning with his kids on vacation in Florida, and so we should probably get him on and let him get back to something more exciting than talking to us, right?
yeah, he's a lot better than Froggy West. So let's bring Rich on.
Let's do it. All right. Rich, what's going on, brother?
Oh, it's going good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, thank you. I appreciate you taking some time out from the beach. I mean, it's not often that we get Rich Yoder, the owner of Yellowstone Post Frame, on. I mean, this is kind of cool, and the fact that you came all the way to the East Coast from the mountains to do this was impressive. I know you didn't do it for that reason, but we're going to go with that's my show.
Yeah, yeah. It just happened that I almost was in your area at the time, honestly. So
Yeah, you
yeah.
are. You are in Fort Myers today, right?
Oh,
Not
Fort
Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah,
Fort
yeah, yeah.
Lauderdale. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hollywood. There. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Hollywood. Yeah, yeah. I'm coming over that way tomorrow, which won't be when this is dropped. But anyways, who's going to pay attention? So we'll find out if anybody listens to me or not. So Yellowstone Post Frame. So before we even get started, tell us about yourself. Who is Rich Yoder? And I'd really let's get right out of the gates with wh- why did you start Yellowstone? There's got to be a story there. I'm feeling a story.
Okay. So first of all, my name is Rich Yoder, owner of Yellowstone Post Frame. I have wife and kid, Cassandra Yoder, and Buck Yoder is a 7-year-old boy, and we do post frame in the Cody, Wyoming area and Montana. But anyway, I am ex Amish, used to be a bull rider, and kind of gave up that life and then fully went into post frame about 10 years ago. And it was learned the ins and outs of it, and got pretty good at it, I felt like. And then finally, it was kind of getting boring a little bit. And I would say the biggest why was what happened is I broke my foot, and I jumped off of a building awkwardly because I was gonna fall, and broke my foot, and everything just kind of, the guys I had working for me, I wasn't really training them in, and it just kind of fell apart. So I was laying around for about 2 weeks, and was pretty depressed about it. Nothing's going right. And I finally just, I got in my own head and was like, are you going to let it break you? Or are you going to let it make you? So I finally decided, let's go. Let's fully go on into this. I had a buddy that was doing it as well, and that had started his own post frame stuff, and he had gotten into some business mentoring. And so I called him, and that's really where it started. I would say is kind of the small, short story version of it. And that's how I got full on started to go. And I was determined to make that bad situation be the best thing that happened to me. And so far now, that was only a year and a half ago. And in a year and a half, I managed to get a company moving. We got 10 employees, and we're looking to double pretty much every year, I would say. So
Nice. Nice. And something I just made a note because believe me, I didn't tell you off air, but I take notes when we're talking, so I'm not doing crossword puzzles because those bore me to death.
yeah.
But you just mentioned you kind of got into your own head, and
Mhm.
I love that. I don't love that happened, but I love the fact that you got in your own head, but you got back out of it. Because I just saved a post earlier when I was on a walk to do this week sometime that talked about that exact thing. You get in your own head, you got to control, but you got to get out. You got to control your own destiny, right? So I think it's a testament to your willpower and your mindset that you could have just said, okay, everything's kind of sucking now, and I'm just gonna, I don't know, go work at McDonald's or something, right? Not that that's anything wrong with, but I'm just saying, you chose to get out of your own head, and that's impressive. So hats off to that. Your 10-gallon hat that you're not wearing, but I saw you in Des Moines, Iowa with it.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that but I mean that's the biggest message I think I want to say with that is um, everybody has bad stuff happen to in their life, and you can either kind of let it make you or you can let it break you. That was kind of the reason I wanted to hit on that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and a little context here. I was a subcontractor at the time, so I was doing well. We were slamming buildings out, and I was working. But the problem was, it was up to me. If I wasn't doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't training people in. I wasn't being that leader and showing other people how to do it. I was just kind of doing it, and I realized that that's it's kind of a failing business model. At some point, you're not going to be able to do what you are now. You're going to slow down, especially in the field. So that was kind of the biggest thing. But like I said, the biggest thing I want people to take from that is just bad stuff happens to you, no matter who you are. It all depends on how you take it and what
Yes.
you do with it
Yep.
afterwards.
Yep. There's times you just gotta dust off, shake your head a little bit, splash a little cold water on your face, think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and go, okay, what did I learn? What
Yeah.
did I learn good? What did I learn bad? Right. And another thing you had mentioned, and you may or may not want to mention his name, and that's okay, because we didn't talk about this off air or anything. But you did mention that you had a business coach or worked with a business coach or somebody that was a partner with you. Um, that's pretty key too, right? Sometimes you need to. You don't always know what you don't know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the most dangerous thing is, regardless of how bad it could be, if you know
Mm-hmm.
what it is and you know what you're dealing with, you can start the process of fixing. But too many business people never figure out what they don't know. And so they're never addressing those issues until it's too late, right? So did that play into this a little bit with the help of a business coach, or where do you want to go with that?
I mean, at the time when this happened, I did not have anybody. But
Mm,
this is when I got into it. Then when I
mm,
had time when I was off with my foot. I mean, don't the wife doesn't really know, but I kind of went out and worked with one leg, even though against her will and the doctor's wishes, because I just flat out couldn't sit there.
Rich. If she watches this, she's going to know. So you got time in Florida at the beach. You might want to break that. I'm just saying. I do
Okay,
marriage counseling on the side, so
okay.
just throwing that
I mean,
out there.
she kind of knows. I don't think she knows to the extent what that I was. Yeah,
Shh.
I'm
We,
just
we,
not going to go there.
we won't
But
tell her.
um, it was. But I had time. I had time to kind of sit back and I had, like I said, I had this friend that got started in the post frame. I saw what he was able to do with his business, so I got into the same coaching stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest things you said. You don't know what you don't know. I guess something down that lines.
Yep.
It opens up your mind. You see stuff that is going to come up, and you just learn how to deal with it. And that's one of the biggest things as a business owner. Like, it's never going to be sunshine and roses all the time. You just got to take it as it comes, and you got to want it, So,
Exactly, exactly, and that's a key. You got to be into it, and you figured out your why. And I know
mhm.
that's something that gets tossed around a lot, and a lot of the folks that I've been blessed to have on the show, that have been blessed to, excuse me, but been blessed to get to know, talk about the why a lot. And too many people wander, I think is the right word, into whatever life brings them without ever determining or understanding uh, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? Is this the right thing for me? And I think that's really important to decide what that why is, because it's pretty tough to make the tough decisions and make the right decisions if you're not even aware of why you're doing it, right? That's pretty
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I would say, I mean, and I kind of have an example of that too. Um, having employees that that work for you, and you get to know them real well, and you like them, but sometimes you got to be that that hard
Hmm.
hard love kind of, you need to
Hmm.
get, because at the end of the day, the business needs to do well, or everybody loses. And sometimes it is hard to do that, to be that person that steps in, and maybe it ends badly, but you gotta stand up. And the why, though, if you know your why, you realize that you're doing this for a bigger
Hmm.
purpose than just today and now. Like, it's something bigger going on here. So I would say that really plays into it. I'd say.
Well, it has to, and I'm sure that some of your employees are people that you were that worked for you when you were subcontracting, or people that you knew, and all of a sudden you went from maybe the boss subcontracting to the
Hmm.
big boss of Yellowstone, right? So all of a
Hmm.
sudden that does change things a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't be friendly. Doesn't mean you can't be pals and have picnics together. But there still has to be, right, there is that separation where Rich at one point during the day has to
Hmm.
be boss now, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. You just have to be, right?
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's the hard part, because me as a person, is it that doesn't come easy for me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the hard driving boss. I mean, I'm very good at working and keeping myself going, but it's hard for me to, like, be hard on other people. I'm a little bit more too easygoing, but I also realize, like, the biggest thing I would say is, I had somebody tell me, he's like, well, if you don't stand up and get people in line when they need to be, just think about, you know standing outside of your house when they throw in a foreclosure sign on it because you lost everything, and your wife and
Mm-hmm.
kids are sitting there. What are you going to tell them? And I said, okay. You know
Right.
what I mean? And to take it a step further, what you could look at all the other employees that are doing good in your company having that same thing because they lost their job.
Right.
Okay, you got to make sure the ship doesn't go down because somebody's not holding up their end or whatever it is. So I would say that right there is probably that's the part of the stuff about being a business owner. A lot of people don't, they see the glitz and the glam, and they don't see some of that. But you got to be that. But to do that, you got to have your why, especially if you're not somebody that comes easy for, like
Mm-hmm.
me. Got to know, where am I going with this? What are we doing? What are the people that are depending on me? Family, other employees, and all that
Well,
stuff.
exactly, because like you said, you have your own family, but with 10 employees, that could be 40, 50, 60, 70 other people that
Hmm.
are depending on this, right? And,
Hmm.
and and so your decisions are not just affecting you and your wife and your son, right? It's
Hmm.
affecting a whole lot of people's livelihoods, and that's a fun and interesting place to be, probably, but it's also can be a little disconcerting at times, right? Because your decisions have to be right, at least most of the time. And it's good that you're guided by that why as you work yourself towards that. So I like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, question:
Hmm.
We we met for the first time out in Des Moines, Iowa, at the National Frame Builders Association show, and you had took second place in a dance-off contest. that we sponsored at the show, which was pretty impressive. Did I get that right? Second place? I mean, nobody will probably come on and argue. You can claim first if you want. I won't tell anybody. Um, but and that's funny because that's something you and I have in common amongst a lot of things. But is a year ago at the show before Des Moines, I might have been on stage with our keynote speaker, and little did I know that she was going to start some music, and myself and then one of the other board members were going to have to do a freelance dance. And I don't even like to slow dance because it hurts my hips. So you can imagine the moves that came out of Randy were quite impressive, I will say. I don't know if impressive is the word, but I know that a year later, I still have people walking up at the show going, "Are you going to dance again this year?" I said, "That is a negative. Absolutely not." Now, if I'd have knew you were going to, I'd have said, "But Rich Yoder will." But but moving ahead, you and I ran into each other one evening. You came up and introduced yourself, which I was so glad you did. And so I wanted to chat about, before we get into the industry itself for the last segment of this, you're probably aware, because we follow each other, I'm pretty big in the belief of being a networker, right? I believe in networking with people in and out of the industry. I just think the more people you know, the better off you will be. But talk to me about your vision and belief in networking, because we both were in Des Moines, Iowa for the National Frame Builders Association event. We ended up time and place, and in that particular place, you had recognized me first and come over and said something, which was blessed that happened. But isn't that incredibly important in our lives in general and personal, let alone business, that we continually search out quality, like-minded people and introduce ourselves. So I know your vision on networking because I follow you, but tell me how you see networking playing into both Rich Yoder's personal life and maybe equally important into Yellowstone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's highly important. I think it's the one thing a lot of people overlook. And look, I like it. I'm kind of an introvert, and I don't really like it. You know, I feel so awkward. You know, I have a YouTube channel. I felt weird, but I did that mainly to get known, and also to just to get more. So it comes easier doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and the reason I knew you too, by the way, was because Josh Nolan. I don't know if I can drop his name, but
of course you can. I'm going to bill him for that, but go ahead.
Okay. You know, Josh was technically I was a sub crew under him at QSI for years, and he talks pretty highly of me, which I'm grateful for that. But he was on a show this show, I believe. I think it was this show. Yeah,
he was
this show. And that was kind of how I got to I realized you were part of the NFBA and all that. And that's kind of how my first time I ever, got, because he was on the show. Then, I was a friend of his. So, I got to see it. And I knew who you were at that time because I'd seen a lot of stuff when I met you there. But networking, I would say, is very important. And, that's actually what I'm doing down here in Florida is we're going to probably one of the, I would say, it's the biggest networking event in the U.S. And that was also what I was doing at the NFBA show, was networking and searching suppliers. That was my two things. I was there to network, get known, network, and search suppliers. That was it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was on a mission there. That was really what I was there. And, that's why I went out and danced. I mean, I made a fool of myself, but some people know me now because of that. That was the point of it. You know what I mean? Having fun and getting to know people. So it's very, very important because those people that if you know somebody that's in a better place or further along in their business and you somehow partner with them or whatever, your business just double like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's stuff that a lot of people overlook when it comes to business and stuff.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I love your take on that because it falls right into a statement that I also say a lot. I'm old, so I say a lot of stuff. But the visibility equals opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. And the more visible you are in today's world, especially with social media and everything as it is, you can fosters so much of a force multiplier by just being out there on a regular basis, letting people see what you're doing, what you're about, what you're thinking, and so which means that sometimes opportunities come to you because using your example, and I didn't know that example, but with Josh has become a really good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
With he being on the show here, introducing you and him, or he introduced you to me, I guess virtually at first. Uh, I mean, there's and I was introduced to Josh by a mutual friend, Barry Brocksterman, who is a fellow rep with MWI Components. So, the whole nature of that is because of Barry, I met Josh. Because of
Mm-hmm.
Josh, you and I met, and that's the way that stuff just extrapolates by 100x, 1000x, 10,000x, right? So I think it's people that don't think you need to do that, people that go to trade shows, association meetings, or even worse yet, don't go at all. That'd be
Mm-hmm.
the worst. But don't go with a mission to do what you just said. Find new suppliers, meet with existing suppliers, but network, become visible. I just think people, you said it so well, are just missing such an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that's and a lot of times, like personally, myself, like I would almost rather a lot of times not go to that. I tried talking myself out of it, but I realized that's something I needed to do, and now because of it, there's a lot of more opportunities that have opened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd say one of them is coming on this show, and I met some suppliers, and I'm still meeting suppliers that are going to help me. I would be more competitive in my area and all that. So I I would say it's one of the biggest things that, and it's a lot of times though as a business owner, I will say this, it's hard to do it because you don't want to take the time. You want to just keep grinding, but sometimes you got to step back and have a well aimed attack versus just going at it like crazy. Um,
Yes,
because yeah, you're just gonna kind of stay in the same grind if you don't.
you do, and I think you have to. Excuse me. You have to put a importance level on
Mm-hmm.
that because you're only going to do what you find important. And it doesn't even necessarily mean you have to like it. Some people love social media. I happen to enjoy. Sometimes I feel like, okay, you've done enough posting for today, Randy. Nobody wants to hear from you again. Uh, but I just enjoy that. I enjoy virtual. I enjoy hosting shows. There's probably never a time if somebody called and I wasn't doing thing the second we got done here and said, "Hey, could you jump on a guest show?" I'd say, "Yeah, give me 2 minutes to go grab another water." Right? I,
Mm-hmm.
I happen to enjoy that. I know not everybody does,
Mm-hmm.
but I I feel this is an accurate statement with social media. Websites without saying, and you guys have a really really nice website by the way, but I think that social media today, you don't have to like. There's a lot to not like about it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
get entangled into a lot of the garbage that's on there at all. But because A, I don't like it, and B, as a presenting myself as a professional in the industry, I don't want to get tangled up into politics and religion and all these other things, right? I mean, I'm going to stay with what I do. But with that said, if you don't, I guess here's where I'm going to go with this. My take. I'd love to hear what you think. If you don't have a good social media presence today on an ongoing, regular basis, you're going to be forgotten if you're known at all. Because 10 years ago, if they couldn't find a website for you, you didn't exist. That's
Mm-hmm.
still very important to be that landing page, to be that go-to spot. But I'll tell you what, if I don't care if you're your age, I'm guessing you're way younger than I, but or my age. Um, we all look at social media, or a large percentage of us do. And if I don't find Rich from Yellowstone Post Frame, but I find two of Rich's competitors,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden they're the people I guess I ought to call, right? Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're better, cheaper, more expensive, better. It doesn't matter. It's just you're going to go with what you find, what you believe, what you see, and you better be out there doing it. That's my whole point. And you guys do a great job with it.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that too, and you know if you're really committed to growing, I mean, like I said, I'm doing it. I don't feel comfortable. I feel okay now. Like I feel like I've created a muscle now where I feel comfortable doing it. There's a lot of stuff that comes easy for me now for social media and stuff. But it took time. It didn't come naturally. But you can find somebody to do it for you too if
Right.
you really don't want to do it yourself. But I think one of the best lines that this is what I learned in my business coaching was, best known beats best every single day. If you're not known, they don't know you're there. The single biggest thing that any small business has is obscurity, that people don't know you're there.
Right.
You gotta make sure they know you're there. And social media, for the most part, unless you pay for ads and stuff, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that stuff for pretty much free, and that's like the quickest way to get known. And there are obviously a lot of other ways that you have to spend money, and if you're not a big business, it may be kind of hard to do, but you at least got to do what you can do. And that's
exactly. I love that statement that you made. So I saw one somewhere on social media a couple of times, and I every time I see it, I'm going to write it down or screenshot it, and then I always forget. But it's something to the effect, and this might not be exact, but it's close enough. If you ain't showing, they ain't knowing. Right?
Yep.
And as along basically what you just said is, I just think you got to be constantly reminding people of what you do, and you, like I said, you guys do a great job with it, and I think it's pretty. We've only scratched the surface of things that we'll be able to do with that as we go forward. So let's get back to your business for a couple minutes. Yellowstone. What type of buildings? Any type of building? Give us a little idea of what somebody would expect if they're going to deal with Yellowstone post frame.
So obviously we build anything from simple pole barns. We ventured a little bit more into the barn dominium space. Nothing super crazy at this point, but we can do stud walls, concrete, and some interior work. We have some videos on YouTube of us doing some of that interior stuff, but mainly, metal, no drywall. Do some timber work, timber porches, and that's about it. I mean, it's high-end horse barns to pretty much across the spectrum, but venturing a little bit more into the barn dough space. We're not really set up to do like turnkey stuff yet, but
right.
We can do quite a bit of different metal styles, standing seam to not just a simple pole barn, basically.
Right. So you're after that. You'll build anything, but you're kind of gearing from what I've observed, and I've looked at all your stuff. You're a little more of the high end, medium to high end range. A little bit nicer projects seems to be your preference.
Yeah, and that's mainly just because I feel like a lot of times we're either that's just what we're known for. We're very competitive, I think, with the higher end stuff. Sometimes you get to the simple stuff, you're a little less competitive, or other people around, that's what they want to do. So you have more competition there. You just have less competition in the barn dough space, I would say.
When I think in that area, I would think in barn doughs, higher end horse barns, commercial, industrial. It becomes a little more of a relationship based trust and belief, as opposed to, not always, but a lot of times in maybe the lower cost projects can be a little more transactional, right? It's well, yeah, but this guy's $700 cheaper. Yeah, but it's a $22,000 little project. How important is $700? It's more important there. That wouldn't even come into the picture on a $150,000 horse barn, because the price is not typically the concern. The first concern is quality of work. Do I trust Rich and these people? Are they going to provide what I want, what I need? The references, the referrals, those kind of things are much more important than just a few bucks, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Then that's probably been our biggest thing is making clients happy and them coming back with somebody else, or they refer in. Usually when we get people call in that have been referred, I mean, you don't have to sell them. They're already sold. You just find out what they want.
Right. Put it together. Yeah, exactly.
And other people that, we call or ask for a quote, they're not really still sold on us yet, because we're a fairly new company. So that's a little bit harder to, drive the value home
Sure.
of who we are. But I feel like as more as we go along, though, that'll become easier because that's my plan is just to become known as the person to go to.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'd say you're doing it, and the dancing did not hurt. I'm just
Okay.
saying. So you're in Cody, Wyoming is your headquarters. You say you do Wyoming, Montana. Is that kind of the general area? Or do you go a little further out than that?
Yeah, it's we do the northwest Wyoming area all the way down to Casper and then we go into Montana up to Billings and
Okay.
west a ways. We're trying to reach out further into Livingston, Bozeman, and get a little bit bigger area, and hopefully expand into Idaho soon too as well.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So, I appreciate your conversation. Yeah, I told you 32 minutes would go pretty fast.
Mhm.
A, before we get to how people get a hold of you, I know we've been streaming things across the bottom because Wes does a brilliant job with that. But what any seldom asked questions or should ask questions? See, I always get it wrong. Wes always saves me. Anything we missed today that you might want to bring up or chat about?
I don't really think so. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, and the reason I asked to was that one question was I just wanted if anybody is, thinking about starting their own business, you just got to do it. That was really the main reason that I had that question. Because I wanted to do this for 5 years and I never did it because I didn't believe in myself. And like I said, it took something breaking my foot and it going to crap to realize that
Yep. Yep.
that's what I needed to do. And that was my wake up call. But, and sometimes too is you just got to commit and figure it out later, commit first and jump off the cliff, learn how to fly on the way down, because at some point you're going to end up, being 60 years old and I should have done that.
Yep.
I would rather end up in a fiery crash and forget and then regret it. But, I know not everybody operates that way. But
No, they don't, but I think you're right on with that. You don't want to wake up someday with regrets over things you coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? Instead of it's better to have tried and failed
mm-hmm.
than to never tried at all. I know that's an oldie but goodie, right? But it's true because if failure is part of winning, right? Let's face it. We all talk about that all the time. Fail your way to win. There's all those different statements, and a lot of people don't fully understand. That doesn't mean you're attempting to fail. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that you're not pushing it far enough to see what you're capable of if you don't have a failure tool along the way. And again, an oldie but goodie, right? It's not a loss. It's not a failure if you learn something from it because you know what doesn't work next time, right? That's all it is. It's a lesson, and you move on. And there's always going to be lessons in whatever it is you do, whether you're an employee or an employer. You're going to have failures. You're going to have issues, and you recuperate or recoup the losses, and you figure it out, and you move on. So, well, good stuff. So, how do people? You're in Cody. You can get a hold of you at YellowstonePostFrame.com. We've been posting your uh, cell phone up there. I assume that's your cell phone or your office phone.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose you take an order for a building on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, or is that an inaccuracy? I don't want to overpaint what you do here.
Oh no, we definitely would.
You would? I knew you would. Well, great. Anything else, my friend, or I'll let you go get back to the family. And I know you're in town for a business training seminar
Mm-hmm.
uh, deal, which I think sounds like a good time. So, anything else before we let you get out of here?
Nope. I think, like I said, I think we covered most of the
Perfect.
stuff, and I appreciate you having me on here, and I just had a lot of fun talking to you.
Well, I appreciate you being on and keep doing what you do. And we'll, if I don't see you before, we'll see you next year. I forget. I should know I'm on the board, but I forget where we're at next year. But
Is it
it's
Knoxville, Tennessee?
Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah, thank you. Which is a kind of a cool town. I like Knoxville. So there'll probably be an opportunity. Your big 10-gallon hat will fit in very well in Knoxville as well. You might want to put a Tennessee Volunteers little logo on it just to get along, but that's up to you. Your call. So, and don't forget to keep being amazing and be a hybrid, my friend. Thanks for all you do.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Cheers, buddy. Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
There you go. Rich Yoder, Yellowstone Post Frame out of Cody, Wyoming, and other parts around the West. man, the dude's got it going. Follow him. If you're out in that area and you can use a building, I can guarantee you the guy will do first class for you. But if nothing else, follow him on social media. You're gonna love what he does, and he follows and falls right, yes, into a mantra that I live by a lot, which is do what you love and love what you do. Wes and I talk about that all the time. That's what we're doing today. We're racking and stacking some podcasts. So Rich loves what he does what he loves, does. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. That's easy to me to say. It's a long day already. Anyway, that is it for now. I got to get out of here, but remember, live it, love it, own it, and make today your best day ever. Till tomorrow. Cheers, all.